Chief Vigilance Commissioner PJ Thomas has become a major embarrassment for the government. Sources have told NDTV that again he plans on digging his heels in and not again submitting his papers as would have been expected. Now, sources have told NDTV that the controversial CVC has refused to quit. Thomas stayed in his office the whole day today but refused to comment on the controversy surrounding him. According to sources, government is now looking at other options and is hoping that the court declares his appointment illegal. Meanwhile, the government is putting up a brave face. Sources, in fact, are telling us that the government is readying to face the BJP in court. Now, leader of the opposition, Sushma Swaraj, had yesterday said that the Prime Minister's panel did discuss the case against Thomas. She said that she will file an affidavit in the Supreme Court. Well, NDTV has accessed the crucial papers connected to the appointment of PJ Thomas as the Chief Vigilance Commissioner, an issue which has become a huge embarrassment for the government today. Now, the papers were disclosed in response to an RTI application by Subhash Chandra Agarwal. The documents record leader of opposition Sushma Swaraj's dissent. Now, and while there are no details of why she opposed Thomas's candidature, it is clear that she was issued, in fact, by the high-powered panel. That is the Prime Minister, Home Minister and Swaraj. Yes. Now, yesterday, the Attorney General had told the Supreme Court that the details of Thomas's case had not been brought to the notice of the panel, but he was forced to clarify after a political storm. Well, senior BJP leader L.K. Advani says that it is shocking that the government claims that the Prime Minister and the Home Minister didn't know of the case against Thomas, as Sushma Swaraj had indeed taken up the details.
उस सीवीसी का मामला मैं जिस समय विपक्ष का नेता था तब से लेकर के ये विवाद शुरू हुआ कि मैंने उन्हें कहा जहाँ पर भी अब कानून बने हैं कि विपक्ष का नेता होना चाहिए लोकसभा का, सरकार के साथ साथ जो निर्णय करे, तो उसमें शुरू में वो एक नाम देते थे, तो मैंने उन्हें कहा कि मैं नहीं मानूंगा जब तक आप पैनल नहीं देंगे। सुषमा जी ने भी यही कहा कि मैं इनका नाम नहीं मानूंगी क्योंकि इनके खिलाफ एक केस चल रहा है, सीबीआई जांच कर रही है और ये सबसे बड़ा अधिकारी है, सेंट्रल विजिलेंस कमिश्नर है, उनके ऊपर कोई केस चल रहा है तो उसको हम कैसे रख सकते हैं। मैं जो दूसरे दो नाम आपने बताए हैं मैं उनको जानती नहीं, लेकिन उन दो में से किसी को भी मान लो, मुझे कोई आपत्ति नहीं।
Well, staying with the BJP rule again, this one, Karnataka this time. Attacks on churches in Karnataka shocked the country in 2008. Now, more than 2 years on, the Justice B.K. Somashekar Commission of Inquiry has submitted its report to the government. Now, Justice Somashekar Commission gives a clean chit to the BJP government and the state police in 2008 church attacks. And on to the bail plea of 9 Muslims accused in the Malegaon blast case. The CBI has opposed the bail plea, saying that the defence has not given valid reasons for the bail. Now, CBI has filed its reply in the 2006 Malegaon blast case in the Bombay High Court. The CBI has also sought permission to reinvestigate the case based on Aseem Anand's confession. Now, the accused, who has been in jail for 4 years now, filed a bail after Swami Aseem Anand's confession that Hindu activists carried out the blasts. And as the debate over Hindu terror grows, there's been an increasing scrutiny of organizations such as the RSS and its alleged involvement in recent terror attacks. Now, today, a group of civil society organizations in Delhi held a seminar to discuss questions of identity and religion. Now, the group demanded that all terror attacks over the last 2 decades be reinvestigated. Amongst its speakers were the Congress party's Digvijay Singh, who traced back a divisive communal tension to L.K. Advani's Rath Yatra back in 1992. Meanwhile, CPM's Sitaram Yechury was more nuanced, saying that terror cannot be associated with any religion.
जब जब भारतीय जनता पार्टी कमजोर होती है, वे कोई न कोई सांप्रदायिक मुद्दा लाते हैं। मंदिर वहीं बनाएंगे जहां झगड़ा हो, तिरंगा वहीं फैलाएंगे जहां झगड़ा हो, घर पर तिरंगा नहीं फहराएंगे, आरएसएस के हेडक्वार्टर पे तिरंगा नहीं फहराएंगे, वहां भगवा फहराएंगे, हुबली के ईदगाह पे तिरंगा फहराएंगे, जहां झगड़ा होगा वहां हम जाएंगे, क्योंकि बिना झगड़े के हमारी दाल रोटी चलनी नहीं है। बात यही है, इसका हमें सभी को विरोध करना चाहिए और इस पर लड़ाई लड़ना चाहिए।
And back in the state, one development that is likely to have far-reaching consequences. The Madras High Court has ordered the closure of polluting dyeing and bleaching units in the textile capital Tirupur. Over 700 dyeing units in Tirupur now face closure, the largest ever such closure if implemented at one stroke. Now, estimates peg the job losses at over 4 lakh should the order go for closure. Again, the dyeing units have been held responsible for polluting the Noyal River, which ultimately reaches the Kaveri, which in fact is the state's rice bowl. A study by the PWD department have found excessive levels of total dissolved solids or TDSs in the Noyal River. The TDS level stood at a high of 5,300 parts per million against the permissible level of 2,100 ppm even in October last year. Now, in another report, this one by the National Environmental Engineering Research Institute or NEERI, it was discovered that the components in the water sample exceeded acceptable standards. Also, Tirupur had figured high on the list of Central Pollution Control Board's list of highly polluting industry clusters in the country in its CEPI index released in 2009. A Supreme Court ban on discharge of industrial effluents into the river Noyal came into effect in January last year. Well, for more on that, senior correspondent from NDTV Profit, Madhu Bharti, is joining us to delve deeper into this one issue. Now, Madhu, if I can ask you this question to begin with, again, the Madras High Court seems to be in overdrive, but what is the expected fallout of this move of actually shutting down this big industry in Tirupur?
Well, as you said, Ashmit, it's about over 720 to be precise of the number of dyeing units that will be shut down effective tonight. And first of all, the Pollution Control Board will go ahead and disconnect the power supply to them. And it's one of its kind, the closure that will happen from tonight. And what we see is directly about 10,000 people working in these units, in the dyeing units, will lose their jobs, at least not jobs as in, just go out, but it's a closure from the central government or in this case, the court. So what this means is directly 10,000 people losing their jobs, and also these are feeder units, remember. So any export that has to happen from Tirupur is through this. The first in the value chain is bleaching and then dyeing. So if that process does not happen, material out of Tirupur does not go forward. So the 4 lakh people you mentioned is the total number of people whose jobs is at stake when it comes to closure of these dyeing units.
Right, Madhu, if I can ask you this question with a slightly different perspective, now that so many jobs are at stake, there has to be a road forward from here. So what is the likely road forward, the roadmap for these units here, and perhaps a participation from the political front?
Well, Ashmit, there are two parts to this. One is the kind of losses that's going to happen if the goods from Tirupur do not move forward, which means that every day loss is pegged about 40 crore rupees. That's if this goes on beyond Sunday, which in all likelihood is going to happen, isn't it? Because Saturday and Sunday the courts are closed, so Saturday some movement of goods can happen from in and out of Tirupur, and then Sunday to an extent too. So Monday we could see the losses going ahead, probably about 40 crore rupees odd. This on the one side is an economic side that the government has to look at. That's more of the central government's problem, but the rest of the problem is mostly through the states. I've been speaking to some of the guys at the dyeing units. What they say is that the central effluent treatment plants that was going to be set up in Tirupur was to happen through center, state and the private parties and the players in the dyeing units. Now the investment from the center, as was allocated in the last budget, had come in, and the private players had already invested the money in it. The center's investment had not come in at all. So it's the center's role to, it's the state's role to step into this and then increase the kind of investment that will go into the central effluent treatment plants and the individual effluent treatment plants, so that they can comply with the actual Supreme Court ruling of making it a zero discharge system. These 720 units are supposed to have been zero discharge, but they're not the case now. They're saying that there are some miscreants, but they can't be implemented on the whole if there is no support from the three parties, center, state and the private parties. And this time they say the state has to act.
Right, Madhu. Thanks a lot for joining us with all those details and insights. Of course, three-party need to come together to take this forward. So that's the word coming in. Now, with that, let's move on. In what came as some relief for consumers around the city, onion prices have finally come down. Now, remember, the Pongal weekend had seen the onion prices climbing to alarming levels of nearly 80 rupees per kilo. Well, here's our reporter Ropriya telling us what you can expect when you go grocery shopping today.
The sunny weather has indeed brought some good news to the residents of the city. The prices of onions that literally made us cry till about a fortnight ago has now dropped. The prices of onion is 24 rupees per kilo at the retail outlets. Yes, you heard it right, 24 rupees per kilo. This is the price at the retail outlet. The prices at the Coimbatore wholesale market is much lesser by about 4 rupees. It's about 20 rupees per kilo. Traders at the market say the reason for the reduction in the prices is because after the Pongal season, the sun has been shining very strongly and the fields have begun to dry up, and also the second crop that is coming in from Maharashtra have come in plenty, so there are enough stock to last till about April. And they also say that the prices have stabilized and the prices will remain the same till about April, May. And they also say that the price of other vegetables also have come down, especially tomato, carrot, beans, even they have come down, bringing much needed respite to the common man in the wake of increasing prices of the essential commodities. So the next time you want to feast on those yummy onion pakoras, you need not think twice. In Chennai, Lokpriya, NDTV Hindu.
Well, let's in fact take a look at how the vegetable prices per kilo were doing in the retail market today. Now, lady fingers a little over 50 rupees a kilo, beans was at 30 rupees a kilo, brinjal was just a little above 15 rupees, was the cheapest vegetable in the market. Onion and potatoes are doing just a little over 20 rupees a kilo. Well, IPL cannot resist controversies. Mumbai Indians are crying foul. They say that auctions were rigged and are hinting at involvement of N. Srinivasan. We get you the details on the other side.